Good morning, everyone. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm here on Technique Tuesday. And I hope you all had a great holiday. And that brings me to the little bit of housework that I wanted to talk about, which was our knit club may be a day or so, a couple days late due to the holiday. And we are waiting for that printing to get done, but they were off. So we will get that out to you as soon as possible, so don't worry, it'll be there. Also, every week we have a prize, and for this last week, it was for the Knitters Pride pom-pom makers, and we talked about making these, so this was the winner, the large one. And then I have some heritage sock yarn that we're going to be offering for this week's prize, and it is in a gray colorway or a blue colorway, and I thought you guys could help me choose. We always have you help choose so that we get the best color sent out in the mail to the winner. And that brings me to another little thing where any of you who are new may not know how to get entered to win a prize. And all you have to do is post comments in the comment section. Maybe you can let us know what you're working on, and don't forget to provide the pattern, because I love looking at new patterns. It gives me good ideas for Technique Tuesdays. So that's totally awesome. So for this last week, we did this lovely hat by Knitterella. It's called the Sugar Plum Hat. And I made a few changes, and we had talked about that. I did the provisional cast on and did a double thick brim. But this is using the Bravo Petite yarns, and it turned out really cute. So I thought this week maybe I could make some mitts that match, and the pattern will be released on Friday, like I said. And it is here. It's kind of damp. I soaked it just a little bit to get it to kind of relax a little bit. But of course those mitts are not done. I wanted to show you a little trick about what I like to do with my yarns. If I'm going to store this per se, and I was going to put it in the closet and didn't want my yarns to get all tangled, I use nice little sandwich bags and then put the yarn for each mitt in there and then seal it closed. And that way it keeps your yarn nice and tidy so it doesn't get tied up in a knot while it's sitting there waiting for you to get back to it to knit it.
So several people joining you from Alaska.
Oh,
and
yay!
I guess it's cold in Wyoming. I can see that.
Oh, my goodness.
And
I know. We're all getting ready to wear our knitted items. It's so awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
There was a question about the heritage yarn. They said, what is it made of? People said they liked it.
75-25% wool. So 75% superwash merino wool and 25% nylon. It's for socks, but you can use it for shawls. You can use the heritage for all color work. I've done toys, sock monkeys, all different kinds of things, and it comes in a lot of solid colors. I think Jim said there were 37 of them. And so we have a nice selection of this yarn right now, and the price, you can't beat it. It's a fantastic price. So if you're looking for sock weight yarn and you need to do color work and want to buy several of them, check it out, because I think it's the least expensive yarn of all the sock yarns that I know about, and being the best quality too. It's very good quality.
What's the yardage on it?
So I think it's 437. It's right around 437. One second here. And yep, 437 yards. That's traditional amount for a sock yarn, is 437 yards. But see how nice it is?
So what are they going to vote? What are the colors they're voting?
So we're blue or gray.
Blue or gray?
Yeah. These are two of our most popular colorways, so I just thought, I don't know, I liked them. So I grabbed those colorways. Anyway, so here we are back to our fingerless mitts. And of course, I haven't finished them yet. And I made this because I love sets. I like, when I make a hat, I want to have the whole set. I want to have mitts and a hat and, have a full set. So here I am making these, and I wanted to go over several things that we're going to be talking about today. And so let's take a look over here. What we have is we're going to be doing, I'll show you on my sample here. So I have my little mitts here, and what I wanted to show you is when I was doing it, I did the tubular cast on, and I'm going to be doing the tubular bind off. But if you see this sock right here, this beginning of the round edge, do you see how it looks really good?
Your yarn's a little dark, so it's a little hard to see it.
You can barely tell. It'll be really super easy to join to the other side, and I wanted to show you the little trick that I did. Here's the traditional tubular cast on, and it involves adding a stitch right at the very end. Do you see how wide the opening is here? It's going to be much harder to make that look seamless and invisible when I'm weaving in the ends. So I wanted to show you what I did to make that little hack so cool. All I did is when you do a tubular cast on, let me show you my directions. When you do a tubular cast on, you have to follow this little recipe, and they tell you to cast on half the amount of stitches on waste yarn. Aha, here you go. So it tells you for the tubular cast on, using scrap yarn, cast on 18 stitches. That's 1/2 the stitches you would need for the actual pattern. Then it tells you to go ahead and knit 4 rows in stockinette stitch using your scrap yarn. Then you are using the yarn for your cuffs. You're going to knit 3 more rows in stockinette. So we're going to be knitting a row, and then we turn back around and we're going to be purling a row. So my little hack, it kind of happened by accident, but it worked out great. Say that I have on here 5, 10, 14 stitches, and I actually need to finish off with 13 stitches. So when I get to this last purl bump, instead of purling that last stitch, I would take this working yarn and bring it through, or just drop it off the needle. That'll work the best. Because what I want to do is I want to maintain that purl bump, but I don't want that stitch on top. So then when I knit a row, I would just go ahead and knit across. So I'm going to go ahead and knit. So I have a knit row, a purl row, and a knit row. Okay, and then I'm going to begin my tubular cast on. And I'm going to begin the part where it actually looks like a tubular, the actual cast on for knitting in the round, right? So then I would turn my work. And my pattern for the mitts tells me, first, we're going to purl 1 from your needle. Then we reach down to here to these purl bumps and put this up on the needle with the right hand leg in front so it's oriented correctly. Then I'm going to knit 1. Then I'm going to purl 1 from the needle. Then I'm going to knit 1. Then I'm going to purl 1. Grab that next stitch, put it up on the needle, and I'm going to knit 1, purl 1, 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 and grab that purl bump, knit 1, purl 1.
What is it you're showing here?
This is the tubular cast on for knitting in the round. Purl 1. Oh, 1 second. We had what did we just do? Purl 1, and then we had a knit 1, and the purl 1. I must not have the right stitch count. And then, because I lost something back here. Let me just go back a couple of stitches so I can see what I did. All right. There was my knit 1. Then I had a purl 1 for my needle. Then I had a knit one. The knit ones are always the ones that are in the multicolored yarn. Purl one, knit one, and purl one. And see if I needed that extra stitch. Here's my actual purl one that I could purl. But I can't actually purl that because it's not on there. But on here, now, let me just see if I can grab scissors, Jim.
There you go.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, I have to find them now. There you go.
Oh, thank you.
They kind of open up.
I do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, they do. Awesome. That's cool.
Got my bucket.
So, when you're taking this off, I'll use that as I go along. You can knit several more rows. Do you see how it goes all the way around here? It's wonderful. And then you would just take this little piece and just, you could do, you know, when I was taking mine out, I was using a double pointed needle and it did great. And I'll have to show you again on the video for how I cast on, I'll show you on a video how I cast on 19 stitches on the scrap yarn. And then at the top, when I was using my real yarn, I dropped off one of the stitches and it gave me a total of 18 stitches because I needed one more purl bump. Otherwise you have to do a knit front and back or a purl front and back, depending on if you're doing a knit one, purl one, or a purl one, knit one. And it gave you that big gap. So I found that by casting on one more stitch, and then dropping it off, I had much better success. So let me show you in just a second here what this looks like. But I really like the tubular cast on, and I think that the tubular cast on gives you a really polished look. And a lot of non-knitters would think that the tubular cast on, they wouldn't even notice the difference, but us knitters notice the difference. We notice that the devil is definitely in the details, and it looks so beautiful when you take that little extra time. And if you do this tubular cast on and the tubular bind off on your fingerless mitts, well, it'll give you a chance to practice it, practice the cast on once, and then the bind off you'll get to practice twice, one at the cuff and then one at the thumb of your project. So, but do you see how nice this is? The stitches just roll right over the top of it, and it's also nice and stretchy. So I would highly recommend using this tubular cast on and become friends with it and see if you can't get every cast on that uses ribbing to be the tubular cast on and the tubular bind off, because I just think it looks really good. Now let's go to the next thing. We're going to be looking at our tubular bind off, and let's see what it says on the tubular bind off. Okay, it tells me on here when I'm doing it, yeah, you can put it over here. It tells you, it says using the second needle, we're supposed to separate the knit stitches from the purl stitches, and I've already done that using this Addi Turbo. This is a sock rocket, and this is needle cord. I don't know if you noticed how it kind of tangles there. And then look at this one, has no memory. So when I'm doing a lot of these projects, I prefer to use the Chowgu if I have it. But this is still, it's still plenty usable and just fine. So when you cut your tail off and you're ready to bind off using the tubular bind off, it's really cool because you separate the stitches, and then all you're doing is the Kitchener stitch. So for those of you who have learned that Kitchener stitch, you know, I always make myself a sticky note like this, and you know, have probably seen it before if you've seen me do the Kitchener before. So the setup row is go in the first stitch, this stitch, as if to purl. So we'll do that. We have the working yarn is at least 4 times the length of our project, so we have plenty of yarn to do the bind off. And so we would go in as if to purl. That's number 1. Then the second part of our recipe is we go on the back needle as if to knit. But we don't take anything off the needles. That's just a setup row. Okay? Now, the next part is the traditional Kitchener, which is knit, off, purl, purl, off, knit. And you want to keep your work kind of snug, but not too snug. Then you go knit. You got to go in there. Sorry, I have kind of tiny little yarn. Knit. You want to go right into that stitch as if to knit. Off, purl, and then get that tail out of there. Move these yarns up. You want, and purl, off, knit. And we just pull it. Then knit, off, purl, that darn tail, and then purl, off, knit. Knit, off, purl, purl, off, knit. And if you need to stop, just stop after this knit off purl, purl off knit. Always stop after that if you need to stop. And then what I would do at this point is take these 2 stitches and bring them around to the other side. Now I'm going to do the last half of my bind off. Okay? And on this first one, just make sure to kind of snug it up a little bit so that you don't have a problem. Then we go knit, off, purl, purl, and you just want to really carefully make sure you don't snag, off, knit. Knit, off, purl, purl, off, knit. Knit, off, purl, purl, off, knit, knit, off, purl, come on, purl, off, knit, knit, off, purl, purl, off, knit, off, purl, off. There you go. And then we join these 2 together. Let's see if we can get it look good. These would you would join these ends together and then weave in your ends. But let me show you what that tubular bind off looks like. Do you see how the knit stitches go right over the top? Isn't that cool? Our knit stitches go right over the top of our work, and that bind off mimics the tubular cast on. And you can just see the knit stitches just going right over. So when it's blocked, it's going to look beautiful. And that's how you do a tubular bind off in the round. Now this will have to be tightened up here, and then we weave in our ends, and there it's all done. But that is how you do a tubular bind off so it matches our tubular cast on. And let's look at it one more time right here. So we have our tubular bind off. And can you see how it just rolls? I know it's in the darker color, but if I spread it out, maybe you could see it. It has a really nice rounded edge to it. Can you see it, Jim?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So the tubular bind off is worth learning. And you know how I say the devils are in the details. And we have talked many times before about becoming friends with the Kitchener stitch. And so becoming friends with the Kitchener stitch helps you in this way too, because guess what? If you can do the Kitchener stitch, you can do a tubular bind off in the round, and you can have your tubular cast on match your tubular bind off. And don't forget, try that, what I was talking about with the tubular cast on, to cast on one more stitch. So if you had 18 stitches and your total stitch count needed to be 36, you could cast on 19, and on the second row in your purl row, just drop that one stitch off, and then you'll have the extra purl at the bottom that you need to go ahead and complete the cast on for that method. So now let's take a look and see what we have. Oh, so the prize for this last week was the large pom-pom maker set, and our winner is Nina Klein. Yay! Nina, all you have to do is get in touch with us, and we'll mail this out in the mail to you, and hopefully you'll enjoy using it as much as I did last week. I love making pom-poms, and I like being able to use different colors of yarn and see how I can make them look beautiful. And I kind of found out last week, just by experimentation, if you don't try to make everything matchy-matchy, it actually looks better.
We sold out, but we're getting more. So.
Yes, Nina Klein, you won the these pom-pom makers. So just get in touch with Alpaca Direct at customer service and get that sent out in the mail for you. And for the rest of you, can you please vote so that we know which color to send out in the mail to our lovely winner for next week for this Heritage sock yarn in either gray or blue. You choose, and we'll send it out next week. And then look for our pattern coming on Friday. Now for this next week, I was thinking that I would do this lovely little poncho. This is a poncho by Petra Breckstone, and I thought it was so cute, and I was thinking maybe as a last hurrah for summer, I was going to use some Pima 100 by Baracco and see how that turns out. So I'm looking forward to knitting this for you for next week, and maybe we can take a look at it, and maybe I learned something. I was thinking right off the bat at the very end here is going to be some stockinette stitch. So maybe I was thinking I could cover how to make your edges so they don't roll. So that's what I'm going to talk about for next Tuesday. So I hope that you all have a great week,